Joining us right now, KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. And so good to have you, KT. There's a lot to talk about.
Great.
Let's start with these Nigerian abductions. A couple of things. It seems now that we're going to be sending 10 advisors from the Pentagon to give them intelligence and help them try to rescue these girls who have been abducted. I got a couple of questions for you. And by the way, the leader of this Boko Haram group, they're affiliated with Al-Qaeda. He made a video statement and said, I abducted your girls. I will sell them in the market by Allah. He says that Allah has commanded this to be so, and his interpretation of the Quran suggests that this is fine. Even Al-Qaeda is trying to have an arm's length from this guy, saying that this is just going to make us look bad. That tells you something. A couple of questions. First of all, this is not a unique situation, is it? I mean, this is getting a lot of publicity, but this kind of thing, sadly, happens all around the world. Does it not?
Yeah, sadly. Well, not to this extent. Sadly, and will happen a lot more, because what we're seeing around the world is a breakdown of world order for a whole lot of different reasons, but I think one of the big reasons is the United States is withdrawn from world affairs. Now, we don't have a whole lot to do with Nigeria and Boko Haram, but what we do have a lot to do with is the incompetent way both administrations, Republicans and Democrats, have handled the growth of Al-Qaeda around the world. So what we now have is an Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda affiliates, or people who think they're Al-Qaeda affiliates, in the name of Al-Qaeda and in the name of Islamic extremism, running around the world. Let's go kill Christians. Oh, let's go grab a couple of schoolgirls and tell them if they don't renounce Christianity, convert to Islam, and agree to marry some of our guys, which is, agree to be raped by.
Yeah.
That's the world we're living in now. Welcome to it.
And by the way, there's a U.S. Senator, Susan Collins, yesterday, who wants to up the ante here. Listen to this.
More can be done by this administration. I would like to see special forces.
That's Susan Collins saying, send some special forces. And I mean, as a national security analyst, would you advise a president to send special forces in a situation like this?
I probably would. But let me just comment on, we're going to lead from behind, right? We're not going to be the world's policeman. We're not going to be the world's cop. What happens when something bad happens?
Yeah.
Who's the only cop around? Yes, I would do what Susan Collins says. First of all, I think it does make sense to get some of our advisors in there, some of our intelligence, find out what's going on, and then advise the Nigerian government, which has so far been incapable of doing, protecting their own people. Here's what you got to do. Here's how you do it. And if we need to give them logistics assistance, et cetera, do it. I don't think the United States needs to invade Nigeria, by the way, but I do think we have a lot of help we can give, far short of boots on the ground.
All right, so let's turn to Ukraine right now. There was some suggestion yesterday, at least the Russians were trying to make the suggestion, that they were pulling back from the Ukraine border. Our forces and our national ability to look at these things came up with the conclusion, well, we're not seeing it. What is Putin up to now?
Oh, he is just so clever, isn't he? I mean, it's just another, judo-like feint. So what's happening, what's on the situation on the ground in Ukraine? Well, there's rioting, there are demonstrations. It's increasing chaos in eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian military, Ukrainian police can't seem to stop it. And so Putin's going to get kind of what he wants. There'll be a vote. There'll be a couple of votes, maybe one in Kiev, maybe some referendum this Sunday in eastern Ukraine of what do you guys want to do? And at the end of the day, Putin's going to get what he wants, which is eastern Ukraine, and he's going to keep going. How does he get what he wants? He's got a plan. He's got the textbook case. Go in, destabilize the situation through your own little green men. These are like Russian special forces that take off the patches on their uniforms and pretend that they're really, Eastern Ukrainians. Deal with the local guys, stir up the situation. The Ukrainian military tries to react, can't. The Russians have an excuse for saying, look, we need to protect our people. This group has to have a referendum to affiliate with us. So what they get is what they want. Eastern Ukraine is where all the heavy industry is. It's where the defense industries are. They don't care about the rest of Ukraine. They want what's in the east, and they're going to get it without a Western response. Why? Because a five-lettered word in the NATO treaty, and the perception is that as long as these aren't armed attacks, the United States, the West, Western Europe doesn't have to react, because we don't want to react. Americans are war-weary, and the Europeans need Russian trade. So even though Ukraine is not a NATO member, it's that notion that as long as it's not armed, it doesn't pass over the threshold that requires our response.
So they found a loophole.
It's not a loophole. It's just it's been there all along. It's just everybody's talking about, ooh, Russia this, Russia that. Russia's going to get what it wants. It's going to move borders, but it's not going to trigger a Western response because it knows the West doesn't want to respond. And it's the loophole that we're going to go through, which is ARMED, armed attack.
All right, Benghazi, the House seems to be very close to setting up this select committee to investigate Benghazi, and it appears that the minority leader of the House, Nancy Pelosi, is very close to making the decision that Democrats should not participate in this select committee investigation. Your thoughts?
What dopes. I was in the White House during Watergate. Almost 90% of the American people watched the Watergate hearings. That was a time when there wasn't a TV in every room, and that was a time that people were watching them, in Best Buy showrooms because they wanted to see what was going on during the day. The whole world will be watching these hearings, and if they're conducted in a comprehensive way that tells a story, which I think Trey Gowdy is capable of doing. These other committees have done a lot of individual preening and posturing, but what they have managed to turn up is what happened. We know what happened. Not adequate security, no rescue mission, no bringing terrorists to justice after the fact. What we don't know is who made those decisions, and we don't know why.
Well, a lot of people think that our inevitable president, Hillary Clinton, made those decisions. Just last night, she was at a forum in New York, and she was asked specifically about the Benghazi hearings, and she said this.
I do not believe there is any reason for it to continue in this way, but they get to call the shots in the Congress. Yeah,
so she thinks there's no reason for these hearings at all. I mean, KT, you've been following this. Do you have a couple of questions that haven't been answered?
Yeah, I worked in the White House. I know that some junior, mid-level official in the White House doesn't make a decision as consequential as lying to the American people and changing intelligence reports without somebody higher up giving him that, telling him to do that. So there is a paper trail. We've not seen a paper trail yet. Let's see the paper trail. And then, look, if it's just total incompetence on the part of this administration, fine, move on. But if there's something else going on here, if it was an attempt to lie to the American people, to put our own men in harm's way and not go rescue them because we didn't want a Black Hawk Down situation a month before an election. If it turns out that these actions were all done at the expense of the intelligence community, at the expense of the United States military in order to win an election, I think people want to know that.
All right, KT McFarland, we'll leave it right there. Thank you so much, KT. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks.